Language program and policies in Syria. Syria, Arabic Syria, officially the Syrian Arab Republic. Arabic Romanized al-Samhuriya, al-Arabiya as Syria, is a country in Western Asia. Syria borders the Mediterranean Sea to west, Turkey to the north, Iraq to the east and southeast, Jordan to the south, and Israel and Lebanon to the southwest. Cyprus lies to the west across the Mediterranean Sea. Syria is home to diverse ethnic and religious groups including the majority Syrian Arabs, Kurds, Turkmens, Assyrians, Armenians, Circassians, and Greek. Religious groups include Sunnis, Christians, Alawites, Druze, Ismailis, Shiites, Salafis, and Yazidis. Capital of Syria, Damascus. Official languages, Arabic. Religion, 87% Islam, 10% Christianity, 3% Druze. Demonyms, Syrian. Soon after the formation of the Syrian state, under French Mandate 1920 to 46, Kurds demanded self-rule within the borders of the country. A petition addressed to the Constituent Assembly of Syria on June 23, 1928 included the following demands. Number 1. The use of the Kurdish language in the Kurdish regions concurrently with other official languages. Education in the Kurdish language in these regions. Replacing government employees of these regions by Kurd, Rondat 1939, 105F. With a growing population, Syria has a good basic education system. Since 2000, the government of Syria has significantly increased the expenditure on education 1 to 6. In 2002, elementary and primary education were combined into one basic education stage, and education was made compulsory and free from grades 1 to 9. Education is free and compulsory from ages 7 to 15. Arabic is the medium of instruction in the Syrian Arab Republic. English is taught from grade 1 and French or Russian is taught from grade 7 in the basic learning stages as the primary second language. According to the 2007 census, 98% of schools in Syria are public, state-run schools for children who are refugees. In 2007, there were 8 million students in the education system of Syria, 4 million in basic education, 1.4 million in secondary, and 2.3 million in tertiary. Given the current growth rate in the school-age population, it is projected that by 2015, the education system in Syria will need to cater to an additional 1 million students in basic and secondary education. The school system in Syria is divided into basic and secondary education levels. First to 6th grade primary education level from 1st to 4th grade, it's called the first ring, Arabic, Halaka, Ola, while 5th and 6th grade are called second ring, Arabic, Halaka Tanya. 7th to 9th grade pre-secondary education level, Arabic, Talim, Idadi. 10 to 12 grade Upper secondary education, Arabic, Tailim Tanawi, which is equivalent of high school. Higher education is the responsibility of Ministry of Higher Education. Schooling is divided into 6 years of primary education, ages 6 to 12, followed by 3 years of intermediate education, ages 12 to 15, and 3 years of general secondary or technical secondary education, ages 15 to 18. The role of education is to transmit the traditional culture as well as teach the approved view of subject area knowledge. The Syrian Ministry of Education approves all curricula and all textbooks and support materials. The textbooks are written by state-approved authors and printed by the General Institute for Schoolbook Printing. Instruction is in Arabic. Following the establishment of the three-level system in 1967, student enrollments increased dramatically. Between 1970 and 1976, primary school enrollments increased 43%, lower secondary enrollments increased 52%, and higher secondary enrollments increased 65%. During these years, enrollments in post-secondary institutions increased more than 66%. These increases are largely because of the government's goal to eliminate illiteracy by 1991. Primary and preparatory schools were built in many areas, and mobile schools travel into remote desert areas. In 1981, an estimated 42% of the population over age 12 could not read or write. By 1984, approximately 57,000 Syrians had attended literacy classes sponsored by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Social Affairs and Labor. Although the goal of having literate population was not achieved, by 1997, the number of citizens who were literate had increased to almost 71%. Between 1970 and 1998, the number of female students enrolled at each level of schooling increased dramatically. The number enrolled in primary school increased from approximately 297,000 to over 1,267,000, and the number of the females enrolled at upper secondary level tripled, increasing from 14,000 to over 52,000. Many 12 to 15 years old girls marry and are often unable to pursue an education beyond the compulsory level. Between 1970 and 1998, the number of female universities students increased from 17,000 to 72,000, and the number of receiving vocational education and training increased from 600 to 63,000. In 1998, females represented 47.7% of the students enrolled in primary schools, 45% of those in preparatory schools, 50.7% of those in the secondary general schools, 45.3% of those in technical and vocational schools, and 46.6% of those in universities. In 2000, Syria adopted a slogan of education for girls as part of its participation in celebration of the annual Women's Worlds on March 8. This underscores the country's commitment to having qualified women in the workforce and to helping women become more self-sufficient. In terms of the links between language policy and education quality, the research indicates that using the mother tongue in classroom enhances classroom participation, decreases attrition, and increases the likelihood of family and community engagement in the child's learning. The crisis in Syria has taken a devastating toll on education, leaving over 7,000 schools damaged or destroyed and about 2 million children out of school. Many of these children are the most vulnerable, including those recently displaced by insecurity. There is increasingly a generation of children that have never enrolled in school and will face difficulties in enrolling and adjusting in formal schooling as they grow older, impacting their longer-term development and opportunity. The combination of displacement, lack of learning spaces, economic hardship, and protection concerns remains obstacles and barriers for the fulfillment of the right to education for children in Syria. Those who are attending school face daily challenges of overcrowded classrooms, the psychological scars of traumatic experiences, possibly curricula and language problems, inadequate quality of teaching, and lack of essential learning materials. These factors place children at the increased risk of dropping out. Almost one-third of those enrolled do not make it to the end of primary school. Syria continues to computational context with significant challenges, especially delays in clearances for delivery of supplies and lack of public transportation for teachers from the locations or shelters they were displaced to the school where they will be teaching. Delivery of services by UNICEF has also been significantly impacted by changing authorities, leading to loss of partners and limitation of the operational partners' capacity on the ground, which hinders the response whilst finding new partners to operate.